calls for restructuring Nigeria through a review of the constitution continue to resonate. One of these comes from the Movement for National Reformation. Through memoranda submitted to the National Assembly, the group calls for the restoration of the 1963 Constitution to be amended reflecting current realities, with the existing 36 states functioning as the federating units. The document recalls that when the military seized power in 1966, the 1963 Constitution was only suspended, not abrogated. The current 1999 Constitution is said to have been foisted on the nation by the military government through its Decree Number 24, with the states merely functioning as administrative branches of the central government. Under the current constitution, the supposedly federal political system runs on a unitary order that negates the basic principle of federalism. Vesting the powers to amend the constitution in the National Assembly is also said to negate the rights of the federating units, the states, which should be deciding on the powers to concede to the central government. It is also suggested that the federal character principle be jettisoned, since it creates an overbearing ethnic and religious balance of power, breeding political and moral corruption and stifling manpower development. The 1963 Constitution emerged from negotiated agreements of ethnicities at the Lagos Constitutional Conference of July the 25th, with federalism accepted as the framework of managing the diversity of territories. Therefore, for true federalism to work, it is in Nigeria's best interests that the 1963 Constitution be restored and amended in line with current realities. Charles Eruka, Arise News.
All right, we have in the studios with me a member of the Movement for the National Reformation, Jonathan Akuns, to discuss this issue. Very warm welcome to Newsnight, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, tell us, why the agitation for the restoration of the 1963 Republican Constitution? One would have thought Nigeria is still a federation. We've forged ahead with 2 or 3 other constitutions, and the process is on to even further amend the 1999 Constitution.
Thank you very much. The key issue about constitution making is simple. The MNR considers that 1963 Republican Constitution is the only constitution that was made by Nigerians and not for Nigerians. Before then, colonial rule made several constitutions and amendments for Nigeria. After the 1963 Constitution was toppled, after a lifespan of just 2 years, 3 months, 2 weeks by the military, the Nigerian state came under the governance of military decrees from 1966 to date. And those are constitutions that were made for Nigeria. But 1963 Constitution was a bottom-top approach by Nigerians, because our leaders, our founding fathers, an all-party meeting took place, a constitution meeting took place in Lagos in July 1963, representing all the ethnic nationalities, to say, yes, we have 2 choices before us. Now that it's a period of decolonization, we can revert to our ethnic boundaries, which predated colonialism, or we maintain the structure that has been incubated by colonialism.
Don't you think that the conflicts will be overwhelming? Because when you look at the ethnic composition of first over 350 ethnic groups, over 400, languages, particularly those with orthography in the country. Yeah. And from 1 kilometer, you have that language variation and the rest. How are you going to maintain that natural boundary again in today's
Absolutely, that's not a problem, because some federative units will be heterogeneous. Some will be homogeneous. It's going to be a question of willing decision of those ethnic nationalities to choose to stay as a heterogeneous federating unit or as a homogeneous federative unit. But the key issue is that 1963 Constitution, the federal tenets in it are the only thing that guides the advocacy of MNR to say, let's go back to it, update it with current realities. Going back to 1963 Constitution does not call for reversion to the 4 federative units that existed at that time. It will take the current 36 states as the starting point of the federative units.
So how are you going to do it then?
It's simple.
Okay.
The Constitution was only suspended by Military Decree Number 1 of 1966. And recalling it from suspension is a matter of ordinary lawmaking in the ordinary course of business. It is a law that exists.
And that law was, the Republican Constitution then was tailored to the British parliamentary system. So how are you going to juxtapose, if that Constitution is restored, with the present democracy, the American democratic system that we practice?
The MNR position is that a reversion to parliamentary system is even better than the presidential system that we currently operate. But the good thing about the Republican Constitution is that it is fully guided by the federal tenets. 1, devolution of power, a 2-tier federation, unlike the existing model of 3-tier federation. 1963 was a bottom-up, bottom-top approach by we the people. So the preamble that says we the people resonates with that. For instance, politicians have interrogated the federal tenets and concluded that that is the best way to do it. The colonialists that brought us together by force realized that the heterogeneity of the state called Nigeria requires a framework to manage diversity. That was why federalism was introduced. And our founding fathers upheld it. Scholars have interrogated it and found it to be the only way to manage diversity.
Would it be akin to the kind of federalism being practiced in Sweden, the kind of confederation in America? What would be the high point of Nigeria's new federalism has been advocated by the MNR?
Nigeria's new federalism that will emerge from lifting suspension on 1963 Constitution and amending it with current realities will simply be like that of America, but by a parliamentary system. A parliamentary system is cheaper, it's more transparent, it's more accountable, it's more representative, because parliamentarians are elected by we the people through the universal suffrage principle. And they take responsibility for government departments. Every day they sit in parliament to review their performance, and we listen to them and see them. We can hold them to account. Unlike the current system of presidential arrangement.
So there you won't be having issues of budget padding again, because they will be accountable directly to the people and not to the president.
Directly accountable to the parliament, to the people via their representative in parliament on a daily basis, on every debate day. They come forward with issues, major progress, and things like that. So having 36 federative units is the starting point. It won't be anything new. Take Canada.
But you're not putting into context the agitation by Southeast region, for example, for a balanced number of states in their own region.
No. When we revert...
Or for the creation of states.
More states. That's fine.
Yeah.
Reversion to 1963 Constitution will address that matter, because some of the federative units will be homogeneous. Some will be heterogeneous. If you take the Southeast, for instance, it's a homogeneous ethnic group. They can come together and be one single federative unit. Federative units is not a matter of size or population. I give you a typical example of what happens in America. The state of California has a population of 39 million people, whereas the state of Wyoming has a population of just 581,000 people. Both of them are states in the Federation of America. So the Southeast will have the choice. Rather than the existing number of states where their ethnic groups are split into, they can decide to say, look, through boundary adjustment and referendum, we just want to be one unit. That would be okay. Any other ethnic group can choose to do so. That would be okay. Smaller minor ethnic groups could decide to come together and be a heterogeneous federating unit, just one. But that would be a matter of choice of we the people, how we want to relate, how we want to govern ourselves. At the end of the day, there will be greater peace than the current system where everybody is going through self-help to look for expression of their own local identity.
But will the local government administration, like we used to know it in the First Republic, help in this modern times if all the legal instruments are fortified, just like President of the Senate, Akpabio, said they are going to fortify the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy during the amendment of the Constitution?
Local governments are indeed a far lower level of governance. But during the First Republic, they were part of an internal decision-making of the federating units. Unlike the current practice, where the federating units are 3 tiers. You have the states as 1 tier, you have the local government as another tier, and then the federal government. At the end of the day, what you have is an obtuse federation, which is practiced nowhere in the world. And the question that arises carefully is, this becomes simply like composite administrative branches of the federal government. But the 1963 Constitution, in line with the federation, the tenets of federalism, recognized a 2-tier system. Every state, every federating unit can be called a state, it can be called a region, it can be called a province, it can be called any name that we choose to call it. But the key thing is it will take responsibility for internal affairs, security, internal administration, and what have you.
Well, Jonathan, I wish we have plenty of time. I know you would have loved to go on and on and on and, you know, make more submissions on the need to go back to the 1963 Republican Constitution. But I'm sure there will be plenty of time for you or your members to come on Arise News and expatiate further on that. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Jonathan Sunday Akuns is an economist and a member of the Movement for National Restoration.